Hi friends, it's Lindsey from the blog Books for Christian Girls, and welcome back to the little corner of the internet where I share mainly about Christian fiction. Today, a recent reads video. And once again, I had every intention to do between like 8 and 12 books. That is the good spot for a length of talking about these books in the video length. And yeah, no, that didn't happen. I had been anticipating to film this video. I was going to read one more book and I'd be good. Next thing you know, it's 2 weeks later and I have 14 books to talk about. That's fine. Let's just go ahead and dive in. As always, I do this by genre. There are timestamps down below if you would like to skip around to whatever genre interests you. That is a-okay with me. And then I also have all the full content reviews of all of these books linked down below for your easy convenience if you want to know about the content about the book I am talking about. I think I missed a word in that sentence, but oh well, we're just gonna go with it. You know what I mean, right? Right. Okay, let's get started with preteen, which I also could just call preteen fantasy. And the first book in that genre, again going from lowest rating to highest rating like always, would be The Dragon and the Stone by Kathryn L. Butler. So I gave this a personal rating of 2 stars, and I think that's honestly just because I'm still not sure about fantasy in general. And also, okay, so the main premise of this book is that a 12-year-old girl named Lily has kind of discovered that she has her late father's magical-esque necklace and is able to start seeing things like dragons and all of the things that come with that. So she gets transported into this new world. It was a very interesting concept. It was a miss for me, and I wasn't a fan of how like the villain really preys on her emotions and her negative thoughts. That was a little bit like, that's a little much in my opinion for a middle grade book. For those that really like fantasy books though, especially those in the target age of the middle grade, they probably would enjoy it, but those sensitive to like death and others being hurt and that kind of thing, probably not. I also do think it could be triggering for adoptees or those in foster care because of the negative feelings that the villain preys on Lily for. Just like a little note there, I have way more details in my review. I think for me personally though, besides those couple of elements, was that it's supposed to be Christian fantasy, and I definitely could see that Christian allegory, but it also had like Greek mythology and then other fictional characters like sirens and fairies, and then Merlin the wizard was there too, and then you have unicorns or Pegasus, something like that. And I don't know how I really feel about that with having like a Christian allegory mixed in with all of this fictional stuff. I think that could be kind of hard to differentiate for a younger reader, depending on the reader, of course. I don't know, I felt off about that. I felt really off about you have a allegory of Christianity and then all of this other like fictional fantasy elements, and I don't know, that just, I wish it would have been a little clearer, but it's hard to be clear in a fantasy book, I feel like. So unfortunately that was a 2 stars for me. I don't think I'll try out the next book in the series personally, but I don't know, it was just heavier than I was expecting for a middle grade fantasy because of all the deaths and people getting hurt or things getting hurt, creatures getting hurt, and then the villain preying on the emotions. It was a miss for me for sure. I'm sure there would be some preteen readers that would really enjoy it, but they're going to be the ones that probably aren't going to be incredibly sensitive to those things I already listed. I hope that kind of makes sense. Again, I have full content reviews linked down below, and I'm very, very in-depth detailed when it comes to middle grade books, so hopefully that will help you decide your opinion on if you want to read it or not, or give it to someone you know. So the next book in the preteen middle grade category that is also fantasy was a book I took a chance on, and I am so glad I did because I really enjoyed it, and that was the Inkwell Chronicles book 1, The Ink of Elspet? I'm not trying to pronounce that, by J.D. Peabody. This is book 1 in a new series. Okay, so I've talked about before, The Mysterious Spinning Society, which is not Christian but very clean, is one of my all-time favorite book series. Like, Top 5? Yes, it is definitely in the top 5. Might even be in the top 3. It's just iconic to me. And I love the writing style of that fun but whimsical, but not whimsical because it's not a fantasy series, that kind of writing style. If you know Mysterious Bank Society, you know. And I'm always on the hunt for a good, clean, middle grade series that has that same writing style. And sometimes I find them, but then there's content I don't like in it. Well, this book had a very similar writing style. It had that kind of dry humor. Is that, I don't even know how you would describe it. But I was instantly sucked into this book. And it has a really cool map. I love maps. So, okay, let me try not to fangirl about this book first. I ended up giving it a 3.5 star. I dropped it down from a 4 personal rating to a 3.5 for a couple reasons that I went more in depth to in my review. But this one is about a young boy and his sister, and their father is actually a reverend, which was really neat to see a little bit of faith content in this book. It definitely wasn't a strong amount of faith content, but it had enough faith content, and it wasn't making a mockery of the Christian faith, which I see pretty often in middle grade books being published now. So I really appreciated that the family was, you know, they were pastors' kids. So we had a little bit of that, and I enjoyed that. Okay, you know, I keep attempting to explain this book, and I really can't. So I'm just going to read the little inside flap, because this is a hardback cover. Love that. 11-year-old Everett wishes he were as brave as the characters in the comic books his dad draws. When his father goes missing after a mysterious train crash in London, Everett and his little sister Bee are left with nothing but questions and a briefcase with a curious old pin. But they soon discover that the pin is far from ordinary. In the right hands, its magical ink can create anything imaginable. Aided by secret protectors of the ink, Everett and Bee embark on a perilous quest across England and Scotland in the pursuit of answers about their father. With enemies called blotters, you know, because like you blot the ink. Okay, sorry, I loved that little note. On their heels, the siblings must invade, capture, and follow the clues that might lead them to the truth or straight into danger. With time running out, will Everett find a way to draw upon the most magical power of all, his courage? Okay, that was a really good blurb for it. I just really loved the creativity in this book. Yes, it kind of does have that magical feel, but it's more of you use the ink and it can do what you imagine. Like if you draw out a staircase, there comes a staircase, that kind of thing. It was cool. I enjoyed it. I thought it was quite fun. I would definitely read book 2. The writing really was that middle grade whimsical vibe that I love without being over the top. There's different parts I could quote, but I kind of feel like I have to explain it a lot. But regardless, I really enjoyed it. And the cover's very cute too, so you know, that's exciting. That's exciting. A mysterious train wreck, a bottle of ink, a giant near invisible pigeon, and that's just the beginning. It was enjoyable. I liked it. I thought it was quite fun. If you have a middle grade reader that reads a lot of secular fiction, and you want to try something else that maybe doesn't have content you're not a fan of, I would check it out. I have about the magic and the world and all of that in my review, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm not in the target age, so it was enjoyable. I would definitely pick up the second book. Okay, moving on to YA, it's actually all fantasy. Are you proud of me? I don't know. Let's talk about these books first and then you can decide. So the first book is Wishtress by Nadine. I gave this book a personal rating of 2.5 stars. So I think personally this one wasn't my kind of book to read, and I'll explain on that in a minute, but the premise of this book is of the main girl, Mirth? I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name or not, but she is what's called a Wishtress, hence the title. And it's basically she has the ability that when she cries, her tears can be bottled and grant wishes. But when something goes wrong in that, she ends up cursed, and then the next time she cries, she will die. So that's less than fantastic, yes? I think for me though, as I'm still kind of a new fantasy reader, well, I'm not really a new fantasy reader, I'm a new fantasy enjoyer, let's put it that way. I had a lot of struggles with figuring out what was going on in the world, and I had to reread quite a few things, and those who really love fantasy books, I think y'all probably would be fine with the content, because I feel like it's pretty average content, violence, fighting, nearly dying multiple times. There was just, I don't know, I'm starting to wonder if this author might not be for me. This is the third book I've read by her. I would like to read the Out of Time series, at least the first book, but I don't know, because the fighting and the maiming and the killing and all of that aspect is just like, it's not my thing to read about personally. So I really wondered, like, would her and the guy that's helping her ever catch a break? Because I really didn't think they would. And then the ending, I don't want to give spoilers, but I still don't know how I feel about that ending. But yeah, I don't know, y'all. Like, I went very in depth on my review on this, on my thoughts. But I think personally, like, I don't know, I saw different reviewers mention about the Christian content in it at the end, and I honestly didn't get that Christian vibe. I got more of like a spiritual thread, and yes, they can overlap, and there are things that alludes to the Bible. It was more of a good versus evil, in my opinion, than a Christian allegory. Personally, I don't know, it wasn't my thing. I apologize. Gorgeous cover. Sorry, y'all, that I didn't enjoy this book more. I am definitely in the minority in that opinion, but it's just, I don't think it's my kind of fantasy book, with all the fighting and the killing and the maiming and all of that, and that's just not enjoyable for me to read about. The author isn't afraid to hurt her characters for the good of the plot, and that shows a lot, I feel like. So yeah, this book was an unfortunate miss for me. I gave it 2.5. It is what it is. The next book in the YA fantasy genre is Elite by Kristen Young. I am still debating my rating on this one between a 2.5 or a 3. As of filming this video, I have not shared my review on this one yet, but by the time this video is posted, I'm pretty positive it will be reviewed by then. I liked the first book because of the ending finally kicked up into that dystopian plotline that I adore so much, and I talked about that in my last recent reads. But this one continued that, and I liked that element, but there was just a certain character I really didn't like, and I didn't like him in the first book, I'd like to say, so I felt very justified in my dislike for him in this book. So he added different elements, and there was kind of like suggestives of a certain place, what happens at a certain place, and I was just like, wasn't really feeling that element. So the third book is going to make or break this series for me. We will see. I do plan to read it soon. I have it on my Libby app, so I will read book 3 soon. But this one was not what I was expecting it to be, unfortunately. And then the last book in the young adult fantasy genre is Blood Secrets by Morgan L. Busse. This is book 2 of 2 in a duology, the Skyworld duology, and I liked book 1 okay, but I was very curious how this second one would be and how things would wrap up. I do think I enjoyed it more than the first book. I gave it like a 3.75, which is such a silly rating, I'm aware, but it's more than a 3.5, but it wasn't as good to me as a 4-star rating, but I can't even do half-star ratings on Goodreads, so I don't even know why I'm debating this. This book, though, it had a lot of suspense, but there was also a lot of really sweet moments that I really, really liked between I guess you could call them the main couple. I don't know. Their teamwork and everything, I really liked that aspect. There was less zombie-like things as well, so that was a positive in my opinion. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Would I buy the trilogy? Probably. Yeah, probably. I enjoyed it. Just realized I really didn't explain what Blood Secrets and the first book was really about, and I can't really explain too much about Blood Secrets, but for the world, it's a steampunk dystopian society, and there's this deadly mist that turns people into those zombie-like characters, and it was an interesting done one. I haven't read too many steampunk books, especially ones I've actually liked, so I thought it was just a very fun, different series. That's all I have for that one, so yeah. So the first book I read in the contemporary genre was Autumn by the Sea by Melissa Tagg. I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I was just craving a really sweet, good contemporary romance when I picked this book up, and then I saw it had that found family aspect, and I was like, okay, and so I read it and I enjoyed it. It did get a little kissy at the end for me personally, but it was still very cute. The premise of this one, though, is about Sydney Rose, who was abandoned as a toddler and has always wanted to know about her family. And then she gets reached out to that she could possibly be this woman's long-lost granddaughter. And it kind of just sets there as she goes to, I think it was Maine? Yeah, Maine, on a blueberry farm. And of course there's a cute guy because, hello, contemporary romance. And it was cute. I did really enjoy it. I really wanted the best for her, and I was very invested in her story. Definitely will pick up the second book, which looks to have like a fake dating trope. And I just really liked the family. I just really loved the family content in this book. It was very sweet and very wholesome in that regard. And then I read Dog Days of Summer by Kathleen. This is book 2 in the Gone to the Dog series. Book 1 was Off the Chain, which y'all have seen me rave about. This book, though, I squeed over how cute their couple was. Oh my goodness. So book 1 is about Mari Marigold, and this is about her aunt, who is a country music singer that has come back to Brenham, Texas. And I am proud to say I know where that is. And it's really cute. There were so many cute parts. Like, I was just squeeing and highlighting so much because I read it as an ebook copy, and then my pre-ordered copy came in a few days early. So yay, I loved that. And it was really cute. Really, really enjoyed it. I was just squeeing. It was so cute. It was so cute. It was so cute. I know I keep saying it was so cute, but it really was. Like, my cheeks hurt from thinking about how cute some of those, like, their banter and everything was. But, like, their friends, he was a nerd, they went to high school together, he got the gumption up to ask her, a cheerleader, out to prom. And it was just so much fun. It was so much fun. Their friendship, their reconnecting friendship. I enjoyed it. I thought it was so much fun. My cheeks literally hurt from talking about this. It was great. So the next book I read was Barking Up the Wrong Tree by Janice Thompson. This is book 3 in the Gone to the Dog series, and it releases in January 1st, 2023. So you might be like, Lindsey, why did you read it so early? You never read books early. And I would say you're right, because I'd like to read them right around the release days to help get hype about it. I will still be hyping up this book, though. I gave this one 4.25 stars. It was very cute. It was just so cute. It had a lot of cute elements with the romance. It's very light. It's only like 250 pages, this whole series. Each book has been about that. And the romances are lighter. They're just so much fun. I guess I should give more info on this series, but I'm just gonna say, like, if you like dogs, Texas books, really cute, clean, wholesome romances, I would definitely check out the series. I feel like that's all I need to share to get you to read it, but I suppose I could give you more. Okay, so Off the Chain I've talked about. That one is about Marigold, who's a vet tech, and she finds this dog in a sewer pipe. I don't feel like that was the right word. And she corrects people that says it wrong, so I don't want to say it wrong. But she finds this dog, that all happens, and she's trying to start a rescue. Second Chance Ranch, which is a rescue place for dogs. Love it. And then this book, Dog Days of Summer, is about her aunt, and she gets involved in the rescue center, and then you've got like the mystery of somebody's trying to, it looks like, sabotage the ranch, and it was really good. And then you have Barking Up the Wrong Tree, which is about the vet, one of the vets at the clinic, Kristen, and a champion agility dog that's a client of theirs is acting really different. Well, it looks like the dog might have been switched for another dog, and so you have that mystery, and it was really good. Really enjoyed it. I cannot wait for book 4, which is releasing in April, so I have to wait, but I'm very excited about it. This trilogy thus far has just been so fun, but ready for book 4, and I so hope there will be a book 5 and 6, because I need Brianna's story, and I need Cameron's story too, please and thank you. I'm just on a happy mood, and now I have to go into a not so happy mood. So the next genre is historical. I have some winners and missers. Is that a thing? I don't think that's a thing. I have some books that won and some that lost. No. Hits and misses. That's the phrase I'm looking for. Hits and misses. So, a miss for me was, unfortunately, The Lost Melody by Joanna Davidson Politano. I ended up giving this one 2.5 stars. I really wanted to like this book. Not only does it have a pretty cover, I've enjoyed a lot of books, most of the books by this author, and it also has a pink spine. Like, I've been complaining about needing more books for months, so I'm really sad I didn't enjoy this book as much as I was expecting. But it does deal with an asylum, and the back cover, like, once you read the book, you can read between the lines on the back cover blurb, but I feel like elsewise you can't, and it is majorly set at an asylum, so if that is something that you're not a fan of, or seeing people treated differently because they are deemed different, you might want to avoid it, because that, I think, was the hardest part of this book for me, was like, you have different characters that have been committed into this asylum, and you can tell, like, okay, she probably has postpartum depression, or so-and-so over here probably has dementia, and it's just the society at the time didn't know how to handle those that were different. And that honestly just breaks my heart. I know it's true history. I still hate it. In that regard, it wasn't a happy read by any means. Yes, the ending could be deemed satisfactory. I still have a few questions, but I did not do a happy sigh after I finished this book. I just sighed. So the main girl in this book is Vivian, and she is a concert pianist, and her father has just passed away, and she finds out he had a ward that is in this asylum. But when she goes to find out about this woman that's at this asylum, there's no info. They won't tell her anything. They say she's not there. They have no record, that kind of thing. And so she gets the idea to become an aide in there. And that right there is when I started getting stressed, because she kept kind of telling people that she was hearing music, and I'm like, that's great. That's not going to go great in this book, but that's a great thing to hear, I suppose. But I'm like, girl, they're going to commit you, and y'all, I was stressed. For that first 50% of, like, things that were happening and then things that I could see that were going to happen, I just had a really hard time remembering to breathe, because I was just like, this isn't gonna go well, this isn't gonna go well, and so yeah, I was a little bit stressed on the first 50% of the book. And I think it needs to be noted though too that this book does heavily, I guess you could say, feature characters from A Midnight Dance by this author, which I enjoyed that book. It's been so long since I've read it though that I was kind of like, I know this name. How do I know this name? I know this name. And I had to pull out the book and reread a little bit of that. So you see those characters again, but once again, it wasn't a happy element. It wasn't like oh, I'm so excited to see these characters again. Let me see how their life is. No, it's like 50 years set. It's like set 50 years later, and things have happened and we don't really get to see them, but we see side characters from A Midnight Dance. And it wasn't a happy reunion for the reader, in my opinion. It also would give a major spoiler to the ending of A Midnight Dance. Just a note. It will give it away, and I feel like that really takes away from the plot line of A Midnight Dance, because how reveals happen in that book were just so like, and I really liked that about that book, so I would read them in publication date order. But unfortunately, The Lost Melody just wasn't it for me. I found it quite sad, really. So I'm sad. Moving on, we have The Bridge to Belle Island by Julie Klassen. I read this book. I held it in a book, and I'm so proud of myself that I have read one of the books I have read. Yay. Yay. And anyway, this is a Regency mystery, but it's a murder mystery, and I was just enthralled in this story. I gave it 3.5 stars. It is a little slow at times, but then it starts picking up, and then it kind of calms back down, but then it picks up, and then it comes back down, and then it really picks up towards the end. It was just very interesting how things played out and how things were revealed. I was very invested, and I was just like, I was very intrigued. I'm just like, there were so many possibilities or so many details I'm not quite sure how this is gonna go, but I really enjoyed trying to follow along and figuring it out. This one though is really fun. I'm trying to think of a quick way to kind of summarize it, but Benjamin is a lawyer, and his firm head guy, what's the name of that? The head lawyer at his firm that he works for, that's kind of like a mentor to him, has a friend that's been murdered. They stumble across the body. How do these book characters stumble across bodies? It's a little scary. That connects her to the possible murder. However, she has a fear of leaving Belle Island. She physically cannot do it. And that's kind of because of a rumored curse that if anyone in her family that's born on the island leaves, they die young. So she doesn't want to be a part of that. And so she, because of those fears, she's never really left the island. And so things happen. It gets very like, you have a lot of suspects and a lot of the different details, and just how things were revealed. I was very, very intrigued and kind of gasping at a few parts too, because I wasn't expecting certain things. And I just really enjoyed it. It was exciting. My next historical book would be Still My Fervor by Kim Sawyer. This was really good. I gave it 4 stars, and I'm not typically a fan of like that second chance romance trope that you see where like they were a couple, they broke up, and now you're seeing them again together. I'm not typically a fan of that because I love seeing their reactions to falling in love. I think that's very cute typically. But in this case, it just worked so well for this story. It is about Gilbert, who left his hometown in Kansas to try to become a composer, a musician in New York City. Well, he's back after 4 years, and not too much has changed. And it was just, I wasn't sure what to expect about this book. I honestly was like, I'm going to read it because I've enjoyed many books by this author before. But I wasn't sure what to expect. I was like, okay, this just sounds like it's going to be a sweet read. And it was. It really, really was. Ava, our main girl, I just loved her relationship with her parents. Like, this wasn't that typical, like, terrible family situation or terrible parents or not alive parents. No, her parents were alive. They were giving her such great advice. And I just really loved seeing such a godly family relationship in a book, and it was very well done on that regard. I think what's really sweet about this book though, and a lot of books I've read by this author, is that I kind of just feel like I'm just like, it's so sweet, I'm just like basking in the sunshine. Does that make sense? Because like I'm just like, it's just wholesome and lovely, and I just really enjoyed this book. I was so excited. I actually went to a bookstore with a friend on release day, and they had a copy, so I picked up a copy because I've enjoyed it that much. I paid full price for it. That tells you something. It's just, I've really enjoyed a lot of this author's books because like you see the characters grow and you get such great faith content. It's just, it was very well done. I really enjoyed this one. Okay, so I know I do these like order of rating wise. However, this next one, these next two, I'm going to do out of order because it's the first book and then a sequel. And they have different ratings. So, the first book, I reread The Debutante's Code by Erica Vitch. Vitch? I think that was it. She said it rhymes with wrench. Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wrench like me, so Vinch? Maybe? I apologize. That's how my brain goes. I'm not sure if that's right. But I still enjoyed this book. I still gave it 4.5 stars. It is just so much fun because here's my little tagline I have for it. Regency. Art thefts, spies. Do I need to say anymore? I don't think so. I didn't need to say anymore, and before I was like, want to read on Goodreads because it was fun. Still really enjoyed this one. It was so fun. I'm glad I reread it before reading book 2. Really enjoyed this one. Still definitely the best book in the series, even though there's only 2 books out thus far. This was my favorite book. Very light romance, lots of codes and mysteries. And just great quips. The vocabulary. The vocabulary in this book. It's great. It's so great. Like there's so many things I highlighted and added to like my words I like but don't use often list. Yes. lots of great vocabulary. The back cover gives off a little bit more than I'd like, but I do really like the dilemma that the main girl faces, that her family are spies and they have to lie, but they're Christians, so like how is that going to work out? And I don't really think there's an answer on that said in this book, but I really liked seeing that moral dilemma. For some reason I like reading about moral dilemmas. I'm sensing a theme. Anyway, really enjoyed that, and it really says, though, on the back cover, I do like that it says she has to do all these different things, all while trying to balance out her Christian faith and living with a cloak and dagger life of lies. And I think that's a really good point. So she is just been thrusted into this family world. She's come back from finishing school, boarding school, and she's just been like, welcome to the family kind of thing. And then we have our main guy, Daniel, is a Bow Street runner, which is, you know, like a police officer. And he's been assigned to figure out where all this art theft is happening, why everything's being stolen, and that kind of thing. So I liked that aspect. I just really liked that aspect. It was so much fun, and I really enjoyed rereading it. And I reread it because Book 2, Millstone of Doubt, came out. Book 2, Millstone of Doubt came out. I gave this one 3 stars. I did not enjoy it as much as I was hoping, unfortunately. But with that, I do think the bar was set really high because the debutante's code was about art thefts. Do I really care about art? No, not particularly. I like Monet and that's about it. You take me to a museum, I'm gonna wonder why there's naked people. Like, I'm not an art person in general. I'm just not. So I don't know why the art theft plotline gets me so interested, but it does. And so I really liked that aspect in the first book. I really liked all the codes and puzzles. It's not that you get to solve them, but you get to see them solve it, and I like that aspect regardless. So the bar was set high because I really enjoyed a lot of elements from the debutante's code. Millstone of Doubt, though, has to do with a murder. I think, though, for me, the main downfall I had of this sequel was that I was able to figure out who the villain was very quickly, and so that kind of took away any suspense or anything for that. It was still an interesting read, but I was really disappointed I could figure out who it was, what the motives were. It felt a little obvious in my opinion. I will still definitely read the third book when it releases, whenever, because I really like Juliet and Daniel and Uncle Bertie. Uncle Bertie is just fun. He's great. He's great. But definitely will read those. I just don't know when that third book's coming out. I do really like that the series has been more focused on the mysteries happening within the book than the romance, which I also really appreciate. I hope the romance stays on the lighter side for the rest of the series. I don't know how many more books there will be. I assume at least one, but that's that. I liked it, but I didn't love it. And it wasn't as good as the first book, but the first book had like all the makings of something I would enjoy. This one was mainly just because I figured out the villain. And then my last genre is clean fiction, and I actually just read this book last night, so my thoughts are still quite fresh on it. Else, I feel like I've had to pull like dust off cobwebs off of my brain for some of these books. It's only been a month, but man, my brain is just not with it today. So I apologize. I hope this video has been okay. But the clean book I read, clean fiction, would be We Could Be Villains by Megan McCullough. I apologize. I don't think that's right. I'm so sorry. I actually, though, am filming a reading vlog during this time I'm reading it. So part of the books I talk about in that reading vlog are in this video. There's been 4. And then the rest of the ones I read will be in a different recent reads coming up. So you can look forward to that to hear more thoughts on, let's see, The Lost Melody, Dog Days of Summer, Barking Up the Wrong Tree, and then We Could Be Villains. I talked about all of those in more detail and more depth in that upcoming reading vlog. I don't know when that reading vlog's being posted, but you can look forward to that, and I'll also have about more books in then too. But with that, We Could Be Villains. Oh, okay, so I did something I never do, times 2. I pre-ordered an ebook copy of a book by an author I've never read. And I read it on release day. Who am I? I don't know. I'm somebody who got hooked into the Instagram reels about this book, all the aesthetic reels with the superheroes and the villains and all of it. I was just very intrigued. I was just like, wow. Okay, I'm interested. And it should be noted, though, I want to point out here, I am not a superhero Marvel fan. Like, my resume is Ignite and Twinipathy and Light Porter. Those are my superhero books that I have enjoyed. Superhero plot lines I've enjoyed. I'm not a Marvel person. I've seen a few of the movies, but that's just not my thing, personally. So I was very curious to see what I would think about this book, and I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. So on the fact that I'm not really a superhero person, I did have to turn off kind of the logical side of my brain. And I mean, no offense when I say that, it's just superheroes are kind of like they're fantasy, but they're not at the same time. Like, the world doesn't feel like fantasy, but it kind of does feel like fantasy because, you know, superpowers. So, on that, you know me, I'm not that big of a fantasy reader. Well, I am now, but fantasy enjoyer is still what I'm working on. This, though, is about a fangirl named Rosemary who finds out that the movie franchise for superheroes and supervillains that she loves so much, she finds out that it's all real. And I just thought that was a very fascinating concept. You've got a lot of like the fangirling and the fanboying and just the fandom stuff. And then also there was like Tumblr-like blog posts in between certain chapters, and oh my goodness, I was just laughing so hard at those because they were so realistic looking. And it was very entertaining in that regard. And overall, this book was entertaining. It did have a lot of fighting and kind of killing. Well, not kind of killing. You're either dead or not. So yeah, killing. But it was, in that superhero element, it was a little much for me at times, but it was still enjoyable. The thing I was the most kind of, I guess you could say, concerned about was that the villain of the story is named Ironfall, and I'm sorry, I can't not smirk when I say that name because it you know, it's a superhero name. Anywho, he kind of stalks her in a way and threatens her to be a part of his team. And she's just, you know, a normal girl, likes musicals, Broadway, all of that kind of stuff. And he threatens her that he'll kill her parents if she doesn't follow what he says. And we do learn her parents are not great people. They really don't care about her, but she cares about them, so that threat works. And there we go. And that's kind of where I was a little concerned on the moral that would be on this. I'm like, I assume he's got to be around her age. Yes, he is. So I assume there's going to be some kind of attraction. I don't really want to see evil being perceived as good, right? Like, that's a very common thing you see in movies, especially children's movies nowadays, where the villain is just misunderstood or the good guy like framed him, or you know, that kind of thing. And I just really don't like seeing that, so I was really kind of concerned on how this book would be. But my concerns were for naught, and I'm very happy about that. It is very much, the villain is the villain. You know, he's a villain. He will kill people without thinking. He is a villain. And she's more terrified of him than any romantic attraction to him. And I just appreciated that so much. And then this sets up for the next book in the series. And we see character development. And I'm excited to read the second book whenever there's info about that. Because he definitely falls for her, but she doesn't fall for him. Because he's a villain that's threatening her. There is not going to be any of that Stockholm syndrome in this book, which I appreciated a lot. Really appreciated the moral dilemma that happened in this book and just how it was handled. Look at me, I have 4 books on my superhero resume. Go me. So that was that book. I enjoyed it. I do have to say I love this cover. I think it's so much fun that it looks like a file folder. Ah, that's so cool. Anywho, I have more content listed on that one down below. No major cussing at all, just like, you know, the more minor things that I listed, all of that down below. It was overall quite clean, besides, you know, killing and fighting and that kind of stuff, which you just kind of have to expect, I feel like, for fantasy books. That is what I have noticed in just these 6 fantasy books I've read. Wait, how many books did I read and how many were fantasy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14, and 6 of them were fantasy. So, wow. Were you expecting to hear that on this channel? I don't think you were. Oh wow, that's really kind of weird. Wow, that's kind of funny, y'all. Okay, anywho, that is, I don't really own much of these books, but I can hold up the stack of books I do own. Out of that, just for fun, I thought I could tell y'all what books I'd like to get that I read that I enjoyed. So, Blood Secrets with its first book, I would like to get those, I think, for my shelves. And then Autumn by the Sea, Barking Up the Wrong Tree, I am waiting for a sale on Baker Bookhouse, and then I'm pre-ordering that. And then Millstone of Doubt, I think I would still get. I think I would still get it just because I've enjoyed the series thus far. And then We Could Be Villains, I think I would buy that one as well because it was different. It was fun and different. So I don't have that many. Out of the 14 books, I own 6 of them, which I guess that's not bad because, I mean, I did have quite a few 2 stars, but, well, I mean, not quite a few 2 stars. I had just misses, but here we go. Here we go. Ta-da! This was fun to talk about with y'all. I feel like I had a lot of books in this one, which, I mean, I did have a lot of books, but hopefully this video wasn't too long. Was it okay? I don't know. Ideally, like I say, I like to do 8 to 12 books, but that doesn't always work out, obviously. But that is it for this video, I suppose. I'd love to know if you've read any of these. Do you want to read any of these? Did I do okay explaining some of, like, the back cover or just the premises of these books? I don't know. I've been trying to be more aware of that and trying to do better, but it's definitely going to be easier on you if you just read the back cover than listen to me on that. And as always, I will have all of these content reviews linked down below if you would like to read the back cover and also see about the content, just to make it easier for y'all. I guess that's it for this video. Let me know if you've read any of these. Do you want to read any of these? And I will see y'all next time. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Lindsey from the blog booksforchristiangirls.blogspot.com, where there is a new review every Monday and Friday. I am also on Instagram and would love to see y'all over there. And then I try to post a new video on this channel every other Friday. That is the goal, and I've been doing quite well on it. So I will see y'all next time. Bye!